In the motor that's going to be replacing the blue 76 motor, the one to the left over there. It was in my Regal. And I got the thing all torn down now. It's all torn down to just the block and the crank and the main cabs and all whatnot. And I have the rods over here. And you may be thinking to yourself, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 9 connecting rods there. What's happening? Well, let me show you. This is the 30 over piston and stock connecting rod out of that blue motor. It's one of them anyway. And I just wanted to show you the difference between the two and part of what makes the SP motor so good. If you see right down in here, let's line up the pistons right here. They're kind of being unruly. Yeah. If you can see right here, you can see how much shorter the newer piston is than the old piston that came out of the SP motor. That means that this piston has a shorter compression height. These are aftermarket pistons, which are what is known as rebuilder pistons. These have a shorter deck height, which means the height from the center of this hole to the top of the piston is shorter than it is right here, to compensate for any cylinder head decking or deck surface milling that would happen during an engine rebuild. So they are shorter to compensate for that, so you won't be screwed if you deck your motor like 30 thousandths and then you'd have to get a whole set of custom pistons and all that nonsense. And let me line this back up here. I don't know how well it's going to come across on camera, but if you can see the difference between the dish of these two pistons, that's the 70 SP piston right there, and then that is the piston out of the 76 motor. Now, these pistons were rated at 8-to-1 compression, so with my 58cc open chamber heads, there's no quench pad in there, it's just a big open chamber. All Buick 350 heads are like that, from 68 to 80. They're all like that, all about anywhere from 55 to 58cc. There's just some production variance there, but they're all essentially the same. Except in 68 and 69, they oiled through the rocker shafts, so they had oiling holes in the heads, and they had solid push rods and different lifters and all kinds of stupid stuff. And in 73, they changed the location of the water jackets, so you would have to do some finagling there if you wanted to put these heads on that motor, for instance. And yeah, these pistons were rated at 8-to-1, and I chose them because I live in the Midwest, and we have probably, next to California, the second shittiest gas in the country. It is that ethanol bullcrap that old cars just don't like. They don't run well on it. It evaporates super easily. The fuel bowl in the car would go dry after like a day or two of sitting in the hot summer sun here. And I chose these so I could run whatever cat piss I could find at the pump. And meanwhile, in 1970, you could basically get 95 octane and higher, some places even 100 octane at the pump, and pay like 45, 65 cents for it and be on your merry way. And another difference I wanted to highlight is, I believe it was a mid-year change in 1975 that they switched to this type of connecting rod. As you can see, it's got the cap screws, and the older rods, they have studs. Motorcycle fucker. They have studs that are pressed into the rod, and then they have little nuts. And as you can see, these rods are much, much beefier than these rods are. Is my finger on that rod? This rod's about the width of my finger, and then I go over here And then, yeah. These rods are the sought after rods. This, if anything, is the defining reason as to why you would build a 75 to 80 Buick 350 over an older one if you didn't care about matching numbers and stuff like that. Now, back over to the motor. I have it torn down to the crank. I'm gonna measure out the bores, see if I can get away with just honing them and re-ringing it, re-gasket, re-bearing, and stuff like that. And I decided to pause right here because I wanted to show you this motor. It may look dirty and grungy and gross, but it is in remarkable condition. The crankshaft is damn near perfect. That'll polish off with some crocus cloth. I'll probably end up just doing that myself and saving myself $50. The camshaft is a little worse for wear, but that's to be expected. It's just an old motor, an old flat tappet motor. And like I said, I stopped here because I just wanted to show you how smooth the crankshaft just turns on its own in its bearings. I'm going to grab the flex plate here and just kind of wing it. That is baby smooth right there. If there was any kind of binding or any kind of scraping noise, which there isn't if you listen real close. Yeah. This motor is in exceptional condition. I got this motor for a very good price. I'm not going to say what it was, but like I said in my last video, it was about half of what this motor is worth. Now, I know this motor has been taken apart, at least down to this level, and re-bearinged, re-gasketed, re-ringed, and put back together. I know that because it had Cleveite bearings in it, which are in the rods over there, and in the main saddles right here. It had Victor Rhines head gaskets, which are right there. Those are aftermarket. Oh, and it also came with, I believe those are NOS, or new old stock 40,000 head gaskets. They have a GM part number and they say GM on them, so I think they're actually from GM, not just like from some site. And yeah, this motor was just given a basic redneck rebuild and slapped back in the car. And they didn't do a particularly good job on it. I've looked at the cross hatching on the cylinders, and it is not good. Well, I say it's not good. I'm going to flip the motor over here for you. Just give me a... There we are. Now, it's kind of hard to see. Shut up. It's kind of hard to see due to the lighting, but you see all these lines and scratches in there? That is what's known as crosshatch. Now, it's very good that all the cylinders still have a lot of cross-hatching in them, which means the motor is not too worn to not accept just a dingle ball hone and a re-ring. But it's called the crosshatch because the lines, there has to be a rough surface in the bore for the sealing, for the rings to seal, for the iron rings to seal up against, and the grooves also have to hold oil for lubrication. Now, if the rings are too shallow, or if the cross-hatching is too shallow, or if it's too obtuse, too far apart, that won't work correctly. It's got to be at a 45-degree angle to each other to ensure for maximum oil retention and ring seal. Now these, a guy probably didn't know too much what he was doing, or he was trying to just do it quick. He probably just buzzed the hone in and out really fast, and you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to do it at a precise, a combination of the precise in and out speed and rotation of the hone. It's nothing too bad, and if you actually look, there is next to no frickin' cylinder ridge in this motor. The only thing that's there is some carbon and some varnish that's built up over the motor sitting for so long. This is a very great candidate for just a dingle ball hone and some rings. I'm getting it all torn apart and prepped here to go down to the machine shop to get hot tanked, because as much as Cletus and Billy Bob like to think, they would never get all this crap out of the motor. Never in a million years. So I'm going to leave it off here. I got to get back to work because I got to clean up the garage and shit. But yeah, I was going to be sitting here working on this the rest of the day. See you all in the next update.